Hey, I'm Kenneth Wajda. I'm a professional photographer here in Colorado. Welcome to another one of my photo chats. So today I'm going to talk about the unpredictability of film. I always hear people say that. Oh, film is so unpredictable. I like that I never know what I'm going to get. And I'm like, what? Film is completely predictable. If your camera is working and you know the film, it's predictable 100%. There's no magic that some of it is like not coated properly. It's not a wet plate where there's like weird streaks in it. It's all completely 100% quality film. If you're using, top film, I guess there could be some low-grade film that has some imperfections. But there is no such thing as anything but perfection in film photography. Or is there? So I hinted at this in the last episode. This is another F3 Nikon that needs a repair. Or does it? So, pick this up at a local sale. It's beat to hell. Look at this thing. It's not in the greatest of shape, but it's an F3. It was a photojournalist's. He said he hadn't used it in forever and he sold it for 20 bucks. Who says no to an F3 for 20 bucks? It's got a high eye point viewfinder. It's got a pretty clear focusing screen. It's good to go. So I slapped the lens on and I went out to the local carnival. And I photographed at the carnival, frame after frame. There's no batteries in it. I finally took them out, but frame after frame, just walking around. What can I shoot? I love carnivals. It was the Boulder County Fair. I love those kinds of that kind of energy where people are eating and having fun and running and kids are running and there's rides going on. It comes once a year, and so I was out there with this, taking it around, seeing what I could get. And then I even went out a second time, and I went out to finish the roll because I'm like, there's still film in it. It was on like 20 when I went back out. So shoot along, keep shooting. Then when I got to 38, it's still going. 39 is still going. 40 is still going. I check to make sure the film is in there. Yeah, it's got film in it. It's got tension. I click it again, and this barely moves. And it doesn't move as much as it should. So it told me that the film wasn't advancing properly. That there was something causing the film to not travel the full 8 sprockets that it needs to travel to go from frame to frame. So I shot 41, 42, 43, and then I said, I guess I'm done. So the film was never going to end in this Nikon F3. So I went home, and I popped open the back, and everything looks pretty normal in there. It's got a repair tag from back in the 80s, and everything looks pretty normal, but I noticed that without hitting the rewind button, you can turn this backwards, even without the rewind button being pressed. And the advance, you can also turn both ways without any problem, which isn't supposed to happen. So as you're advancing the film, it does work when there's a little bit of film in it. Pictures 1 through 12 are pretty good. It does advance. You can probably see that. But when it got to higher tension, close to 40, it was just pulling a little bit. And so it was overlapping the frames. Now, you might take that in for service. It might not be worth it, but it might be because you only paid 20 bucks for it. But is that the kind of camera you keep for that reason? To make special effects? I'll put a link to some of the photos that I made, and I found some of them quite good. Now, yes, you could do it with Photoshop. Yes, you can overlay things later. You don't have to do it in separate photos, but you can with this. Film is perfect. But in this camera, it's a little bit imperfect in the way it spaces photos. Could you use that as your advantage? Because none of my other cameras I can make do that. But this camera I can. I kind of want to keep this around to do projects where I just create a double exposure project. And I've never been a big double exposure guy. But having created some, now what if I did it with intention? Or was it really just because of happenstance that it ended up being something worth looking at and it will never be replicated? It might not be. But I love the fact that this camera created something that no other camera I have can do. And I kind of like the results, and it's kind of one of those things. I've showed it to some friends. They like the results. I might keep this to give to other people. Say, here, go shoot 40 or 50 photos in this, and we'll see what you get. It's a camera that is a one of a kind in my collection. One of a kind because it's broken. The rewind advance mechanism isn't locking and preventing rewind all the time, and so it's not advancing properly. But maybe that's its asset. Maybe that's its strength. So film is very predictable, but cameras can be problematic. But even when they're problematic, they might be interesting and they might be inspiring to use it for a certain kind of a project. Just like you might pick up a Holga because you want that soft, dreamy look. You might pick up a Rolleiflex because you want that incredibly sharp, focused look. Whatever it is. All right, that's Today's Photography Talk. If you're enjoying these, hit the subscribe button. If you can support, hit the Patreon. Thanks to all my supporters, including some new ones. And I will be back next time. We'll talk more photography. As always, here's the good light.